I'm Amber Mitchell, 29, and yesterday I stared at my phone screen in disbelief. For the fifth consecutive birthday, my parents sent only a text, "Sorry, we've been busy. Happy birthday, sweetie." Meanwhile, my Instagram feed showed my sister Rebecca lounging at a beach resort, sporting a new designer purse, both birthday gifts from our parents. I'd spent years making excuses for them, understanding their choices, swallowing my hurt. But something inside me finally snapped. After a lifetime of being second best, I decided enough was enough. Before I continue, where are you watching from today? Hit the like button and subscribe if you've ever had to set difficult boundaries with family. Let me share how I finally found my voice. Growing up in our suburban Boston home, the pattern was established early. Rebecca, 2 years younger than me, always seemed to receive the lion's share of our parents' attention, affection, and resources. It wasn't that I was neglected in any obvious way that would raise eyebrows. I had everything I needed physically. But emotionally, that was a different story. When I was 8, I won first place in the school science fair with a project on solar energy that I'd worked on for weeks. My parents attended the ceremony, but left immediately after to take Rebecca to her dance recital. They never saw my presentation. "We're so proud of you, Amber," Mom said hurriedly as they rushed out. "But Rebecca really needs us there for support. You understand, right? You're so independent." That became the recurring theme. I was independent, self-sufficient, mature for my age. These weren't just compliments, they were justifications. Rebecca was sensitive, needed more encouragement, was still finding her way. Our personalities were framed in ways that conveniently excused the imbalance of attention. In high school, I maintained a 4.0 GPA, captained the debate team, and secured a partial scholarship to Northeastern University. My acceptance letter was met with a casual "good job, we knew you'd get in" from Dad, followed quickly by concerns about how they'd afford Rebecca's SAT prep courses. At my graduation, they took the obligatory photos, but conversations quickly turned to Rebecca's upcoming junior prom and the dress they needed to shop for. "They love you," my grandmother once whispered to me. "They just worry about Rebecca more. You've always been the easy one." Easy. As if requiring less support was somehow a fair trade for receiving less love. College widened the gap. While I worked part-time jobs to supplement my scholarship, Rebecca changed majors 3 times at a more expensive private school. "Your sister is still finding herself," Mom explained when I questioned why they were covering Rebecca's full tuition while I was working 20 hours a week. "You've always known what you wanted." My graduation from college with honors in marketing marked the first truly undeniable instance of the pattern I'd spent years trying to ignore. My parents attended the ceremony and took me to dinner afterward, a perfectly adequate celebration. 2 weeks later, Rebecca finished her degree, with average grades after 5 years, and received a 2-week trip to Europe to decompress before entering the real world. When I asked why there had been such a disparity in our graduation gifts, Dad looked genuinely confused. "You already had job interviews lined up, Amber. Rebecca needs time to figure things out. Besides, you're not really into traveling." The truth was, I'd never been able to afford traveling, so how would they know what I was into? But I swallowed my hurt and focused on building my career, quickly advancing at a digital marketing firm while Rebecca bounced between entry-level jobs. It was around this time I met Tyler at a work event. Tall, thoughtful, with a quick sense of humor that balanced my more serious nature, he was the first person who truly saw the family dynamic for what it was. After meeting my family at a Thanksgiving dinner where my parents spent most of the time discussing Rebecca's new apartment, which they were subsidizing, Tyler asked quietly on the drive home, "Do they always focus on your sister like that?" "Like what?" I asked, though I knew exactly what he meant. "Like you're an afterthought," he said gently. "You mentioned your promotion 3 times, and they barely acknowledged it." "Rebecca needs more support," I recited automatically. "I've always been more independent." Tyler glanced at me with a look that would become familiar, a mix of tenderness and concern. That's not fair to you, Amber. And I don't think you believe that anymore. He was right. I didn't believe it, but admitting that meant confronting a painful truth. My parents' love felt conditional, measured, and unequally distributed. It was easier to cling to the narrative that I was simply more self-sufficient than to acknowledge that perhaps I wasn't as loved. As my relationship with Tyler deepened, providing me with a mirror reflecting what equal, unconditional support looked like, the contrast with my family dynamic became increasingly stark and increasingly difficult to ignore. The pattern that had been established in childhood would continue into my adult years, building to a breaking point that even my well-practiced emotional defenses couldn't withstand. My 25th birthday marked the beginning of what would become an unmistakable pattern. I had just received a significant promotion at work, and Tyler had planned a small dinner with friends to celebrate both occasions. I invited my parents and Rebecca, secretly hoping my professional milestone might finally earn their enthusiastic attention. The day before my birthday, Mom called. "Honey, we won't be able to make it tomorrow. Your father has a golf tournament, and I promised to help Rebecca shop for her new apartment. We'll catch up soon, okay? We're so proud of you." That evening, I scrolled through Instagram to find Rebecca posting photos of a brand new MacBook Pro, early birthday present from the best parents ever. Can't wait for my actual birthday next month. I put down my phone and tried to ignore the knot in my stomach. Rebecca's 23rd birthday celebration the following month included a weekend at a vineyard with our parents, complete with a private wine tasting and a shopping spree. My promotion and birthday had merited a phone call and a $50 gift card that arrived 3 days late. "Maybe they're just busy right now," I told Tyler as he watched me open the belated card. "Or maybe they think material things don't matter to me." "It's not about the gifts," Tyler said carefully. "It's about the effort and attention. You deserve that too." The second year established the pattern. My 26th birthday coincided with what my mother described as a family emergency, Aunt Linda's minor outpatient procedure that somehow required both my parents' presence, though not Rebecca's. Social media later revealed them having lunch at my sister's favorite restaurant that same day. The explanation when confronted: "We didn't want to worry you with family stress. You have such a demanding job." By my 27th birthday, I had lowered my expectations considerably, which made the excuse that year, financial constraints, somewhat easier to accept. That is, until Rebecca's birthday 3 weeks later featured a weekend trip to Chicago and a new iPhone. When I gently questioned this, my mother seemed genuinely perplexed. Rebecca's been going through such a hard time with her breakup. She needed cheering up. The fourth year, they simply forgot until the day of, sending a last-minute text, "Happy birthday. Sorry it slipped our minds with everything going on. Love you." That everything was never specified and no belated celebration was offered. Each disappointment chipped away at my well-constructed rationalizations. After the fourth birthday, I finally attempted to have a real conversation about the pattern I couldn't ignore. "Mom," I said during a rare phone call where I had her full attention, "I've noticed that my birthdays and achievements seem to be treated differently than Rebecca's. It makes me feel less important." The silence on the line stretched for several seconds before her response came, defensive and dismissive. "Amber, you've always been so independent. Rebecca needs more encouragement. You're successful and stable. You don't need us fussing over you like she does." "But I still want to be celebrated," I said, my voice smaller than I intended. "I still want to feel special to you both." "You're being too sensitive," she replied. "We love you both the same. We just show it differently based on what you each need." That conversation repeated with variations over the following months. My father was even more direct. "You're an adult with a great job. What do you want from us? Rebecca is still finding her footing." At 27, Rebecca had found her footing through 3 different careers, each one financed by our parents' generosity. Meanwhile, I had built my success largely on my own, a fact that was now being used against me as justification for their emotional and financial withdrawal. Tyler witnessed my slow emotional retreat from my family. The fewer calls, the shortened visits, the careful avoidance of personal topics. They're not going to change if you don't make them face this, he said one night after I declined yet another family dinner that would inevitably revolve around Rebecca. They're still my family, I answered, though the words felt hollow. What am I supposed to do? Cut them off because they don't throw me big birthday parties? This isn't about birthday parties, Tyler said, taking my hand. This is about you being treated as less valuable, less worthy of celebration and support. You matter, Amber. Your feelings matter. I knew he was right, but confrontation had never been my strong suit, especially with my parents. The pattern was painful but familiar. Rocking the boat felt more frightening than continuing to quietly absorb the hurt. So I maintained surface-level contact while emotionally withdrawing, hoping something would eventually change without my having to force the issue. As my 29th birthday approached, I had learned to expect nothing more than a text message. But deep down, a stubborn, childish hope persisted. Maybe this year would be different. Maybe this year, they would see me. The week before my 29th birthday, I found myself engaged in a familiar internal dialogue, the hopeful part of me wondering if this year might be different, while the realistic part prepared for another disappointment. I had deliberately scheduled a day off work, something I rarely did, just in case my parents might suggest a lunch or even a phone call longer than 5 minutes. 3 days before my birthday, Mom called. My heart lifted momentarily. Amber, honey, I just wanted to check what your schedule looks like next month. Dad and I are thinking of having a little family gathering. Oh, I said, the momentary hope deflating. I'm pretty flexible. What's the occasion? Nothing special. Just thought it would be nice to get everyone together. By the way, your birthday is this Friday, isn't it? Dad and I have been so swamped with the house renovations. We'll try to give you a call. Try. As if wishing their daughter happy birthday required scheduling and effort. Actually, I took the day off, I said, hearing the hint of plea in my voice and hating it. I'm free all day if you wanted to grab lunch or something. Oh, that's nice, honey. I'll have to check with your father, but we've got the contractor coming that day, I think. I'll text you, okay? They didn't text to follow up about lunch. Instead, at 4:37 p.m. on my birthday, as I was getting ready for the dinner Tyler had organized with friends, my phone pinged with a message from my father. Happy birthday, Amber. Sorry we've been busy with the house and couldn't call today. Hope you're having a good one. Love, Dad and Mom. I stared at the message, noting how it was clearly from my father. My mother would have used emojis, and how they hadn't even called, just sent a text. I placed my phone face down on the dresser and continued applying my makeup, refusing to let the tears forming ruin my mascara. You okay? Tyler asked, watching me from the doorway. Fine, I said automatically. Just the usual birthday text. At least they remembered. Tyler didn't push, but I felt his eyes on me as I finished getting ready, his concern a tangible thing in the room. The dinner with friends was lovely. A private room at my favorite restaurant, thoughtful gifts, genuine warmth and celebration. For a few hours, I forgot about my parents' absence, allowing myself to be surrounded by people who chose to be there, who made me feel valued. It was during dessert that my phone buzzed repeatedly with notifications. Curious, I glanced down to see Instagram alerts. I had been tagged in photos. Rebecca had posted a series of pictures from a beach resort in Florida, the azure water providing a stunning backdrop for selfies of her and our parents, all smiles and laughter. The caption read, "Surprise early birthday getaway with the best parents ever. Plus they spoiled me with this gorgeous Michael Kors bag. Nothing but the best for their baby girl. Love you both so much. Hashtag blessed, hashtag birthday girl, hashtag family first." My hands trembled as I clicked through the photos, my parents flanking Rebecca at sunset dinners, poolside lounging, and shopping excursions. The house renovations that had kept them too busy to even call me apparently hadn't prevented a 5-day beach vacation. And Rebecca's birthday was still 3 weeks away. Amber? Tyler's voice seemed to come from far away. What's wrong? I wordlessly handed him my phone. Around the table, my friends' chatter died down as they registered the change in atmosphere. Tyler's expression darkened as he scrolled through the photos. They told me they were busy with house renovations, I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the emotion churning inside me. Too busy to call. Too busy for lunch. But not too busy for this. A silence fell over the table. My closest friend Julia reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm so sorry, Amber. Don't be, I said, forcing a smile that felt brittle. This is nothing new. But it was new, or at least, the public evidence of it was new. In the past, I could pretend to myself and others that perhaps I was exaggerating the disparity, that my perception was skewed by sensitivity or insecurity. Now, the contrast was displayed for everyone to see, timestamped and hashtagged. You don't have to do this, Tyler said quietly. We can go home if you want. I looked around at the concerned faces of my friends, people who had shown up for me, who celebrated me without conditions or comparisons. No, I said firmly. I'm exactly where I want to be, with exactly the people I want to be with. We finished the evening, but the photos had cast a shadow I couldn't quite shake. Later that night, alone with Tyler in our apartment, I finally allowed the tears to come. What's wrong with me? I asked between sobs. Why am I never enough for them? Tyler held me, his presence steady and sure. Nothing is wrong with you. This is about them, not you. But why? What did I do to deserve being treated like an afterthought? You didn't do anything, he said firmly. Some parents they play favorites. They don't see how it hurts because they don't want to see. I pulled away, wiping my eyes. Do you know what the worst part is? Until tonight, I still had this tiny hope that maybe I was overreacting, that maybe they really were just busy or thought I didn't need them. But this, I gestured toward my phone. This makes it so obvious. They didn't even try to hide it. Maybe that's actually good, Tyler suggested cautiously. Now you can stop making excuses for them. Now you can decide what you want to do about it. I nodded slowly, a heaviness settling in my chest along with a strange, unexpected sense of clarity. For years I had twisted myself into knots trying to understand, to justify, to accept their behavior. The mental gymnastics had been exhausting. You're right, I said finally. No more excuses. No more pretending this is normal or okay. What I didn't know then was that acknowledging the truth would be only the first step in a painful journey and that the worst was yet to come. 3 days after my birthday, after spending the weekend processing the beach vacation photos and gathering my courage, I called my mother. My hands trembled as I held the phone, but I was determined to address the situation directly. She answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. Amber? Is everything okay? The fact that she assumed I was calling with a problem rather than just a talk was telling in itself. I took a deep breath. Mom, I saw the photos of you, Dad, and Rebecca at the beach resort. A pause. Oh, yes. It was a lovely little getaway. Rebecca's been working so hard lately, we thought she deserved a break before her birthday. The casual dismissal of what this represented made my chest tighten. Mom, you told me you were too busy with house renovations to see me on my birthday. Too busy to even call. But you weren't too busy for a 5-day vacation with Rebecca. Another pause, longer this time. Amber, the trip was planned months ago. The contractor's scheduling was last minute. I don't understand why you're upset. I'm upset because this is a pattern, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. For the past 5 years, my birthdays have been met with texts and excuses, while Rebecca gets vacations and expensive gifts. It makes me feel like I'm less important to you and Dad. That's ridiculous, she replied, her tone shifting from confusion to defensiveness. We do everything equally for both of you girls. You're being far too sensitive about this. Equally. I repeated. Mom, when was the last time you took me on a vacation? Or bought me a designer purse? When was the last time you made any effort to celebrate me the way you celebrate Rebecca? You're a grown woman with a successful career, Amber. You don't need us to coddle you like Rebecca does. Besides, you never seemed interested in those kinds of things. How would you know what I'm interested in? I asked, hurt bleeding into my voice. You never ask. And this isn't about material things. It's about showing that you care about me as much as you care about her. Of course we care about you, she exclaimed. I can't believe you're trying to turn this into some sort of competition with your sister. We've always been there for both of you. That's not true, Mom, and you know it. You've always prioritized Rebecca. Always. I heard my father's voice in the background, asking what was wrong. Mom covered the phone, but I could still hear her muffled explanation. Amber's upset about Rebecca's birthday trip. Dad came on the line. Amber, what's this about? Your mother's upset. The fact that he immediately focused on Mom's feelings rather than mine spoke volumes. I'm upset too, Dad. I'm upset that you both consistently show Rebecca that she matters more to you than I do. That's nonsense, he said firmly. You're too successful to need anything from us. You've got your fancy job and your boyfriend. Rebecca still needs our support. I still need you too, I said, my voice breaking slightly. Not financially, but emotionally. I need to feel like I matter to you both. Of course you matter, he exclaimed, sounding genuinely bewildered. But you can't expect us to treat you the same when you're in completely different situations. Rebecca needs more from us right now. She's always needed more, I replied. For 29 years, she's always been the priority. Now you're just being dramatic, he said dismissively. We're not having this conversation if you're going to be irrational. The call ended shortly after with nothing resolved and my parents both frustrated with me for creating drama. I sat in stunned silence, replaying the conversation. They genuinely couldn't see the pattern that was so glaringly obvious to me. That evening, my phone lit up with a text from Rebecca. Thanks for ruining Mom's day with your jealousy issues. Not everything is about you, you know. I didn't respond, but the irony wasn't lost on me. In Rebecca's world, everything had always been about her, and our parents had fostered that belief. The confrontation triggered a family-wide reaction. At a cousin's wedding the following month, the tension was palpable. Relatives who had witnessed the dynamic for years, but never commented now observed with new awareness as my parents doted on Rebecca while maintaining a cool distance from me. Your dress is beautiful, Rebecca. You look stunning. Mom gushed, adjusting my sister's hair for the 5th time. When I approached in my carefully selected outfit, she merely nodded. You look nice too, Amber. My Aunt Linda, Mom's sister, caught my eye across the table during dinner. Later, she found me alone by the bar. I've seen it for years, she said quietly. I've tried to talk to your mother about it, but she doesn't see it. Thank you for saying that, I replied, unexpected tears stinging my eyes. Sometimes I feel like I'm crazy for noticing. You're not crazy, she assured me. But I don't think they'll ever change, honey. Some parents just pick a favorite. It's not fair, but it's how they are. The wedding became a turning point when Rebecca, slightly drunk on champagne, confronted me in the bathroom. Why are you trying to make Mom and Dad feel bad? She demanded. You're just jealous of my relationship with them. I'm not jealous of your relationship, I replied carefully. I'm hurt that they don't seem to have room for a relationship with me too. Rebecca rolled her eyes. You're always so dramatic. They love you fine. You just want everything I have. I don't want what you have, I said. I just want to be treated with the same love and consideration. Well, maybe if you weren't so cold and judgmental all the time, they'd want to spend more time with you, she snapped. You're always been the difficult one. I stared at her, seeing for the first time how the family narrative had shaped her perception too. In her world, I was the aloof, judging older sister who had everything and still wanted more. The reality, that I had been systematically sidelined while she was elevated, was invisible to her. The final straw came during Thanksgiving when my parents announced they would be helping Rebecca with a down payment on a condo. When Tyler politely inquired if they had offered similar help when we purchased our apartment the previous year, the table fell silent. Amber never asked for help. Dad said stiffly. She's always been independent. We didn't ask because we knew what the answer would be, Tyler replied, his usual diplomacy fraying. The same answer it's always been for Amber. And what's that supposed to mean? Mom demanded. It means, I interjected, finally finding my voice, that you've always had different rules for Rebecca and me. Different expectations. Different levels of support. Here we go again, Rebecca sighed dramatically. Poor Amber, always the victim. I'm not playing the victim, I said, keeping my voice level despite the hurt and anger coursing through me. I'm stating facts. Facts that everyone in this family has chosen to ignore for years. Well, I think you're being ungrateful, Mom said. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me that equals what you've done for Rebecca? I asked quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. I think you should just get over it, Dad finally said. This jealousy isn't healthy, Amber. In that moment, looking at their faces, my father's dismissal, my mother's defensive anger, Rebecca's smug certainty, I realized that Aunt Linda was right. They would never change because they could not admit there was anything to change. The dynamic was too entrenched, too comfortable for them. And I had a decision to make. The drive home from Thanksgiving dinner was silent. Tyler kept glancing at me, clearly concerned, but respecting my need to process. When we finally arrived at our apartment, I sat on the edge of our bed and stared at the wall. I can't do this anymore, I whispered. Tyler sat beside me, our shoulders touching. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that nothing will ever change. They don't see it. They don't want to see it. I looked at him, tears welling in my eyes. And I can't keep pretending it doesn't hurt. I can't keep showing up to be dismissed and gaslit and made to feel like I'm crazy for wanting to be treated with equal consideration. So what do you want to do? He asked gently. I think I need some distance, I said, the words both frightening and liberating. I need to step back from them until I can figure out how to have a relationship that doesn't damage my self-worth every time I interact with them. The next day, I made an appointment with a therapist. Dr. Melanie Rivera was warm but direct, listening carefully as I detailed the family dynamic. What you're describing sounds like a classic golden child/scapegoat dynamic, she explained after I'd shared my history. It's a form of emotional neglect when it comes to your relationship with your parents. Your feelings and needs have been consistently minimized while your sisters have been prioritized. But why? I asked, the question that had haunted me for years. What did I do to deserve this? Nothing, she said firmly. This isn't about anything you did or didn't do. Family dynamics like this often develop early and become self-reinforcing. The more independent and self-sufficient you became in response to getting less attention, the more they used those traits to justify giving you less. Over the next few weeks, Dr. Rivera helped me understand that my pain was valid, my observations accurate, and my need for boundaries healthy. With her guidance, I crafted a letter to my parents, something I could reference during the difficult conversation I knew I needed to have. In early January, I called them and asked if we could meet in person. They agreed, sounding wary. When I arrived at their house, they were both sitting stiffly in the living room. My mother's face was already set in defensive lines. Before you say anything, I began, my hands trembling slightly as I held my notes. I want you to know that I love you both. What I'm about to say comes from that love and from a need to protect myself. I took a deep breath and continued. For as long as I can remember, I felt like the less important child in this family. My achievements have been minimized, my needs deprioritized, and my feelings dismissed, all while Rebecca has received consistent emotional and financial support, celebration, and attention. My father started to interrupt, but I held up my hand. Please let me finish. I've tried to talk to you both about this multiple times, but you've either denied it or justified it by saying Rebecca needs more or that I'm independent. The truth is, I've had to be independent because I learned early that I couldn't count on you the way Rebecca could. My mother's face had grown pale. That's not true, Amber. We've always loved you both equally. Love isn't just a feeling, Mom. It's actions. It's showing up. It's celebration and support and attention. And by those measures, your love has never been equal. I swallowed hard. I'm not saying this to hurt you or to ask you to love Rebecca less. I'm saying this because I can't pretend anymore that it doesn't hurt me. So what are you saying? My father asked, his voice tight. What do you want from us? I need some distance, I said. I need time to heal from this pattern and to figure out what kind of relationship I can have with you that doesn't leave me feeling diminished. I won't be coming to family gatherings for a while. I won't be calling or visiting regularly. The shock on their faces was quickly replaced by indignation. You're cutting us off because we didn't throw you a big enough birthday party? My father demanded. No, I replied calmly, though my heart was racing. I'm setting a boundary because decades of unequal treatment have damaged my sense of self-worth and my trust in you both. The birthday was just the most recent example. This is ridiculous, my mother said, tears in her eyes. You're punishing us because you're jealous of your sister. I'm not punishing you, I said. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. The conversation deteriorated from there. My parents cycled through denial, anger, guilt-tripping, and finally emotional manipulation. My mother crying that I was breaking her heart, my father accusing me of being selfish and ungrateful. I left feeling shaky but resolved. The hardest part was yet to come, actually maintaining the boundary I'd set. The first few weeks were a barrage of texts and calls, not just from my parents but from extended family members who had been enlisted to talk sense into me. My Aunt Meredith called to tell me I was tearing the family apart. My Uncle Steve suggested I needed psychological help for my jealousy issues. Even my grandmother, who had once acknowledged the disparity, now urged me to forgive and forget for the sake of family harmony. Rebecca launched what Tyler called her victim campaign on social media, vague posts about toxic people and family betrayal that painted her as the wounded party. Mutual family friends reached out, confused by the narrative she was spinning. Through it all, I maintained minimal contact with my parents, brief, factual responses to texts, but no calls or visits. Dr. Rivera helped me craft responses that were firm but not cruel. I understand you're upset, but I need this boundary right now. I'm not discussing this further. I love you, but my decision stands. The most difficult test came when my mother ended up in the hospital with pneumonia in March. I visited, of course, but maintained emotional boundaries, resisting her tearful pleas that life is too short for estrangement. When she was discharged, I helped arrange her home care but didn't move back into the caretaker role that would have been expected before. Easter came and went, the first holiday I'd ever missed with my family. I spent it instead with Tyler's family and a few close friends, creating new traditions that didn't leave me feeling like an afterthought. The day was bittersweet, tinged with grief for what I wished could be, but also filled with genuine warmth and celebration. By June, 6 months into my limited contact, the constant pressure from my family had eased somewhat. My parents had shifted from angry demands to tentative, surface-level communication that carefully avoided any mention of the elephant in the room. They sent occasional texts checking in but never acknowledged the issues I'd raised. Rebecca remained cold and distant, still portraying herself as the victim of my irrational jealousy. But without my presence as the family scapegoat, I wondered if the dynamic between her and our parents had shifted at all. Meanwhile, I poured my energy into building a life that affirmed my worth. I accepted a promotion at work that I might have previously downplayed around my family to avoid overshadowing Rebecca. Tyler and I began discussing marriage more seriously, planning a wedding that would reflect our values rather than family expectations. Are you going to invite them? Tyler asked one evening as we browsed potential venues online. I sighed, considering the question I'd been avoiding. I don't know yet. Part of me wants to believe that something this significant might finally make them see me. But another part knows that's magical thinking. Whatever you decide, I'm with you, he assured me. But don't invite them because you're hoping they'll suddenly change. Invite them only if you can accept them as they are. His wisdom struck me deeply. For so long, I'd been caught in a cycle of hope and disappointment, hoping that the next achievement, the next milestone, the next conversation would finally make my parents see me and treat me with the same enthusiasm they showed Rebecca. But that hope had kept me tethered to a painful pattern. Maybe true freedom wasn't about changing them, but about changing my expectations and building a life where my worth wasn't dependent on their validation. As summer turned to fall, I settled into a new rhythm with my family, brief, cordial interactions that remained firmly on the surface. My parents made occasional attempts to draw me back into the old dynamic, with my mother sending texts like "Rebecca misses you" or "The family doesn't feel complete without you," but I maintained my boundaries. What surprised me most was how different I felt without the constant cycle of hope and disappointment that had characterized my relationship with them. There was grief, certainly, mourning the parents I wished I had, the relationship I'd never experienced. But there was also a new sense of peace. "It's like I've been holding my breath for years," I told Dr. Rivera during one of our sessions. "Always bracing for the next reminder that I'm second best. Now I can just breathe." She nodded. "That's what happens when we stop trying to earn love from people who aren't capable of giving it the way we need. We free up all that energy for other things." And I did have energy for other things. My career flourished as I took on challenging projects without the voice in my head questioning if I deserved success. My relationship with Tyler deepened as I stopped bringing the insecurity and people-pleasing tendencies from my family dynamic into our partnership. I also began building what Tyler called my chosen family, strengthening connections with friends who celebrated my successes without resentment, who showed up consistently, who made me feel seen and valued. Julia, my friend who had squeezed my hand at that fateful birthday dinner, became an even more important presence in my life. "I always saw how you dimmed your light around your family," she told me over coffee one day. "It's beautiful to see you shining now." Not everything was easy, of course. The first holiday season away from my family was particularly difficult. Thanksgiving at Tyler's parents' home was warm and inclusive, but I still felt the absence of my own family acutely. Christmas brought a small, carefully neutral gift from my parents with a card that made no mention of our estrangement. Rebecca continued her campaign on social media, posting throwback family photos with captions like "missing the way things used to be before some people chose ego over family." I muted her accounts for my own peace of mind. In February, nearly a year after setting my boundary, Tyler proposed during a weekend trip to Vermont. As we celebrated with champagne in our snowy cabin, I felt a familiar twinge of sadness knowing that sharing this news with my family wouldn't bring the unbridled joy it should. Should I even tell them? I wondered aloud, staring at my beautiful engagement ring. "That's entirely up to you," Tyler said. "But remember, you're not responsible for their reaction. You get to celebrate this moment regardless of how they respond." I texted my parents the news the next day, attaching a photo of the ring. My mother responded quickly, "Congratulations. That's wonderful news. We should all get together to celebrate soon." The suggestion of getting together without any acknowledgement of our estrangement was typical, acting as if nothing had happened, as if we could simply resume normal relations without addressing the underlying issues. I replied politely but non-committally and turned my attention to planning a wedding that would reflect our values rather than conform to family expectations. We chose a small, intimate ceremony with only our closest friends and family, people who had consistently shown up for us both. The question of whether to invite my parents and Rebecca loomed large. After much discussion with Tyler and Dr. Rivera, I decided to extend an invitation with clear boundaries. They were welcome to attend as guests, but the day would proceed on our terms, without the traditional father-daughter dance or family speeches that might reopen old wounds. Meanwhile, my professional life continued to flourish. I received another promotion, becoming the youngest senior director in my company's history. The financial security this provided meant Tyler, and I could plan our wedding without needing parental contributions, a freedom that allowed us to make decisions based solely on our preferences rather than obligations. As I approached my 30th birthday, the one-year mark since the beach vacation photos that had finally forced me to confront the family dynamic, I reflected on how much had changed. The previous year's hurt and rage had mellowed into something more complex, a mixture of sadness for what couldn't be, gratitude for what I'd built instead, and pride in my growth. Do you regret it? Tyler asked one evening as we discussed my upcoming birthday. Setting that boundary? I considered the question carefully. No, I said finally. It's been painful, and there are days I miss the illusion of family I had before. But I don't regret choosing my self-respect. I don't regret refusing to participate in a dynamic that made me feel less than. He nodded, squeezing my hand. I'm proud of you. Not everyone has the courage to draw that line. As my 30th birthday approached, I decided to reclaim the day that had for too long been a source of disappointment. I planned a weekend trip to a nearby lake with Tyler and our closest friends, people who celebrated me without condition or comparison, who made me feel valued just for being myself. The week before my birthday, I received a text from my mother. Your father and I were thinking of stopping by for your birthday this year. Let us know if that works for you. After a year of surface-level communication with no acknowledgement of the issues I'd raised, this casual suggestion that they could simply stop by felt like another dismissal of my boundaries. They wanted access without accountability, connection without change. With Dr. Rivera's guidance, I crafted a response that was firm but not cruel. Thank you for thinking of me, but I have plans for my birthday weekend. I'm still processing a lot about our relationship, and I'm not ready for an in-person visit yet. I hope you understand. My mother's reply was brief and cool. We're trying, Amber. I don't know what more you want from us. The truth was, I didn't want anything from them anymore, at least, not in the desperate, hungry way I once had. I'd stopped looking to them for validation or celebration. I'd built those things for myself, with people who freely gave what my parents couldn't or wouldn't provide. As I packed for my birthday weekend, I realized that was perhaps the greatest gift of this difficult year, the freedom from needing them to see me, to affirm me, to choose me. I had finally, truly chosen myself. My 30th birthday dawned clear and beautiful at the lakeside cabin Tyler had rented. I woke to the sound of gentle waves and birdsong, a world away from the anxiety that had surrounded my birthdays for years. Our friends arrived throughout the morning, bearing homemade food, thoughtful gifts, and genuine excitement to celebrate with me. Julia had organized a sunset boat tour, complete with champagne and my favorite music. As we glided across the water, watching the sky turn spectacular shades of orange and pink, I felt a profound sense of peace. Happy birthday, Amber, Tyler said, raising his glass. To 30 years of becoming the incredible woman you are, and to all the years ahead of continuing to shine. Our friends joined the toast, their faces warm with authentic affection. In that moment, surrounded by chosen family, I understood that this was what celebration should feel like, unforced, uncomplicated by comparison or condition, simply joy in my existence. My phone had remained mostly silent throughout the day, with the exception of a brief text from my parents. Happy 30th birthday, Amber. Love, Mom and Dad. No mention of the beach vacation they were taking with Rebecca for her birthday the following month, which I'd seen referenced on social media. No acknowledgement of our estrangement. Just a placeholder greeting that fulfilled the minimum obligation. In the past, that text would have devastated me. Today, I could receive it with a calm acknowledgement. This was who they were capable of being, and it was no longer my responsibility to make them see or do more. Over the following months, I maintained limited, structured contact with my parents. We spoke occasionally on the phone, exchanged holiday greetings, and kept conversations focused on neutral topics. The distance I'd established had actually made these interactions less painful, as I no longer approached them with hope or expectation. There were signs that my boundary had created some ripples in the family system. My mother occasionally made small efforts that would have been unthinkable before, sending articles related to my work, asking questions about my life rather than immediately turning the conversation to Rebecca. My father remained more distant but less dismissive when we did speak. Rebecca, however, continued to view my boundary as a personal attack. She made little effort to understand my perspective, comfortable in her role as the family favorite. Our relationship remained strained, limited to brief, civil exchanges at the few family functions I attended. As our wedding approached in the spring, Tyler and I finalized our plans without family financial support or interference. We chose a beautiful outdoor venue, wrote our own vows, and kept the guest list intimate, only people who had demonstrated consistent love and support for us both. My parents accepted the invitation to attend as guests, though my mother expressed hurt at not being more involved in the planning. "I always imagined helping my daughters with their weddings," she said during one phone call. "I know," I replied gently, "but this approach feels right for us." The wedding day itself was everything we'd hoped for, authentic, joyful, and surrounded by genuine well-wishers. My parents attended and behaved appropriately, though I could sense their discomfort at the unfamiliar dynamic where they weren't central figures. Rebecca came with her new boyfriend, maintained a polite distance, and left early. During the reception, my Aunt Linda found a moment to speak with me privately. "You look happy," she said, studying my face. "Really happy, not just putting on a brave face like you used to." "I am happy," I confirmed. "It took some hard choices to get here, but I'm at peace with them." She nodded. "Your parents may never fully understand what happened or their role in it. Some people just can't see themselves clearly." "I know," I said. "I've stopped waiting for them to see or understand." That's been the most freeing part. In the year since setting my boundary, I'd learned invaluable lessons about self-worth, family dynamics, and the courage required to break unhealthy patterns. I discovered that love shouldn't require diminishing yourself, that blood ties don't automatically equal healthy relationships, and that it's possible to honor your parents without sacrificing your dignity. Most importantly, I'd learned that waiting for others to validate your worth is a losing proposition. Worth must come from within first, reinforced by relationships with people who naturally see and celebrate you. As Tyler and I settled into married life, we discussed how we would approach family planning and parenting, both aware of the patterns we didn't want to repeat. "If we have multiple children," I told him one evening, "I want to be so conscious of treating them as individuals without creating a hierarchy of value. No golden child, no scapegoat, just different people with different needs, all equally worthy of celebration. We'll break the cycle," he promised. Together. And that, perhaps, was the greatest resolution I could have hoped for. Not that my parents would suddenly transform or that Rebecca would develop self-awareness, but that I could take the painful lessons from my childhood and use them to create something better for the future. The cycle of favoritism and emotional neglect that had shaped me wouldn't continue into the next generation. My story doesn't have a perfect Hollywood ending where my parents had a dramatic realization and changed completely. Real life rarely works that way. But it does have a true resolution in the peace I've found, the boundaries I've maintained, and the life I've built that affirms rather than diminishes my worth. If you're watching this and recognizing similar patterns in your own family, know that you're not alone and you're not crazy for noticing. Your feelings are valid. Your needs matter. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and ultimately for your family, is to stand firm in your truth and require that relationships be mutual in their care and respect. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family? What helped you find the courage to do so? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they deserve to be celebrated too. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, you are worthy of love that doesn't hurt.